out of the 9/11 generation. We connected community colleges and American businesses looking for workers with higher skills to be able to work in their high-tech manufacturing. We cut taxes for middle-class people over these 4 years by $3,600. Ladies and gentlemen, we provided 18 tax cuts to those small businesses. We helped millions of families modify their mortgages. The result, 29 straight months of private job growth, 4,500,000. Measurable progress, but it's not enough. It's not enough, but it's important progress. Ladies and gentlemen, when Congressman Ryan was introduced by Governor Romney as his running mate, Ryan stood up there and said, and I quote, "We're determined to, quote, restore the dreams and greatness of this country." What he didn't say, that the very plans he voted for and what Romney has supported put America's greatness in jeopardy. How do they think we got in this mess in the first place?
That's right.
As my little granddaughter would say, was it Casper the Ghost who came along and did it? Who did it?
That's right.
Where did it come from?
Yeah.
He also said, quote, that no one disputes that President Obama inherited a difficult situation. I guess so. What he didn't say is that his votes and the Republican Congress and Romney's proposal put the president in that situation in the first place. What he didn't say, when he came to Congress elected in 1998, a Democratic administration, we had a balanced budget. We inherited a $1 trillion deficit, and trillions had been added to the national debt since Clinton left office. Ladies and gentlemen, all those initiatives the Bush administration, these guys supported and voted for. Where do they think it came from? And now they say, with great emphasis, they care about the middle class.
Lord have mercy.
As my brother would say, go figure. Go figure. My dad used to have another saying, for real. By the way, I've been saying this for 30 years, and I'm glad to see that Congressman Ryan likes his dad too, quotes his dad. I mean that sincerely. But my dad had a lot of wisdom. Every time someone would say, look, let me tell you what's important to me, what I value. My dad would go, no. Don't tell me what you value. Show me your budget, and I will tell you what you value.
That's right.
Romney wants to, quote, deregulate Wall Street again. Romney wants to slash investments in innovation and worker training. Continue the policies that result in the outsourcing of American jobs he perfected at Bain Capital. Make massive cuts in education. $2.7 billion from low-income schools. $2.2 billion from special education. 200,000 kids knocked off early education. Cut by $12 billion. The Pell Grants. These grants go to college-qualified, working-class families' kids who wouldn't be able to get there otherwise. They qualify. They want to eliminate one of the things I've worked for my whole career and the President strongly supports, a $2,500 a year tax credit if you send your kid to college and you spend more than that. They eliminate that. They cut more than 100,000. Catch this. 100,000 work-study programs. That's a fancy way of saying a lot of kids can just barely make it to college, and then what they do, they get a work-study. They work while they're there for the college doing something to stay. They cut 100,000 of those work-study programs. And this is the kicker, folks. They cut just in next year's budget, the year if they were elected, their next budget, by $10 billion. Veterans benefits, as these guys are coming home. Seriously, I'm not making this up. They once again allow insurance companies to once again take away your health care if you get sick or you hit your limit, forcing hundreds of thousands of Americans literally into bankruptcy, not figuratively, literally. They throw $19 million people off of Medicaid, including 1 million seniors. 75% of all those women in a nursing home were there because of Medicaid. What happens to them under their plan? Their bold plan.
Yeah.
On Social Security, Romney's proposal is slash $2,400 a year for any worker who's now in their 40s when they get old enough to receive Social Security, and slashes $4,700 a year for anybody in their 20s when Social Security comes around. Ryan does them one better. He proposed privatizing Social Security. A proposal that even the Bush administration rejected in a paper, rejected it as, quote, irresponsible. It's hot in here, but I'm getting hot thinking about this. On the tax front, Romney maintains an $800 billion tax cut for people with a minimum income of $1 million. That's what the top end bracket gets. Out of that, over $400 billion in tax cuts goes to 120,000 families. Did I say that again? 120,000 families. And we're cutting billions out of education. Billions added to the cost of health care for the elderly. Billions out of the money we have for vets. And they can afford a $400+ billion tax cut to be continued for 120,000 families in America? Ladies and gentlemen, no, I really mean it, man. This is bad stuff in my view.
Yes, it is. It is.
And on top of that, for good measure, Romney proposes, as does Ryan, another $1.6 trillion tax cut over 10 years for people who make a minimum of $1 million. Hear me now? You got to make a minimum of $1 million to get in on this $1.6 trillion. Average cut you'll get, I hope some of you are in that category. Average cut you get will be another cut of $250,000 a year in tax. That is 5 times more than a middle-class family makes in America. The Nonpartisan Tax Policy Center, this is a huge price for the deficit and a huge price for the middle class. That's where they're going to pay for it. That's who pays for it. And you think I'm kidding? Ladies and gentlemen, the Nonpartisan is called the Tax Policy Center. Points out that the price is high. It will mean an additional $2,000 a year for a middle-class family with children. Let me say it again. Romney went out there and said he'd reject the new arms control treaty we signed with Russia, supported by almost every Republican former Secretary of State, National Security Advisor, and Secretary of Defense just last year. He labels Russia the single greatest geopolitical threat to the United States. He returned to the policy of go it alone. Look, like his economic policy, his foreign policy is a return to the past, ladies and gentlemen. Where in the past we were not respected by our allies nor feared by our enemies. And he calls the president out of touch? Out of touch? A Swiss bank account? Untold millions in the Cayman Islands? Refusal to release his tax return? Out of touch? Would any of you think of running for office and think you don't have to release your tax returns? Whoa. Hey, folks. This ain't your father's Republican Party. It's not even Governor Romney's father's Republican Party. We offer a stark alternative to Ryan's vision and the Romney vision. And it all rests on a growing, prospering middle class. The middle class has always grown and prospered when the tax code has been fair, when the government has fostered innovation in the private sector, when research and development have led the way, when education, good solid education, the promise of schooling beyond college, be available to every single American who's qualified regardless of their income. We see a future once again where America has the highest percentage of college graduates in the world. We now rank 16th. Where high school graduation rates are high no matter what neighborhood you come from. Where every person has access to school beyond high school. Where every American knows that we once again lead the world in making things that the rest of the world wants. We see in America where my granddaughters have every single solitary opportunity my grandson has. We see in America where women receive equal pay for equal work. We see in America where getting seriously ill does not mean you face bankruptcy. Where Social Security is protected, Medicare is available to people in distress, and Medicare fulfills its original mission. That's why we strengthen the program. We extended the life of Medicare by 8 years. We did it all without cutting one penny in benefits to anybody on Medicare. We see in America where we maintain our sacred obligation of keeping faith with veterans, not cutting their benefits. Where no millionaire pays a lower tax rate than the middle class man or woman. Where middle class folks get a tax cut to send their kids to college instead of oil companies getting a tax break to drill for oil they don't need. Where middle class taxes are cut, not raised. Where middle class no longer is played for a sucker. We see a world where America leads not only by the example of its power, but by the power of its example. Where our allies share the burden of maintaining world peace. Where Americans are home and Afghans are running their own country. A world in which American values are emulated. Where our power is respected. And our economy, once again, is the envy of the world. That's the future we envision for the country. And I really mean this sincerely, folks. It's totally, completely within our reach. Look, folks, more than any other office, the presidency is about character, your convictions, and your vision.
That's it.
It's about whether or not you put the country above politics.
That's it.
I've watched my guy. From the day he took his handle off that Bible on that cold January day, he's done just that. This man has the character, his convictions. He has a backbone like a ramrod. He knows because he did it himself, because grandparents did it. Give the American people an even chance. And they have never, ever, ever failed their country. That's why he believes, as I believe, that our best days are ahead of us. We see in America with a strong middle class, a vibrant middle class, where people can reach for an American dream and achieve it. And we have a president with the character and the conviction and the vision to see it through. So, folks, let's finish what we started. Right. When he said this is a make or break moment for the middle class. So let's meet this moment together. We need you. We need you to stand with us. We need you.